I want to talk about Kavanaugh and why it doesn't make any sense for him to be Supreme Court Justice. But before I talk about him, I want to talk about myself. When I was 9 years old, my father decided to go visit my grandfather. Same way this year I brought my kids to visit their grandfather because he knew I probably will never see him again. We were living in England. And my family has lived on 701 Warren Street in Ohio, Marietta, Ohio, for generations. And or not for a generation, but my father's my great grandfather was a minister there. And my father was so happy that this neighbor kid, can't remember his name, remember what he looked like, remember what he was wearing, I remember his penis, to explain, took interest in me. And my dad was so pleased that an older kid, he was a couple years, 3 years, he was either 13 or 14, I was 9 or 10. And he took me to a creek. He's like, hey, I want to show you something. Next thing I know, he pulled down my shorts and he was sucking my penis. And then it was like my turn. And I remember the size of his circumcised penis, especially the head, which was oversized, and I sucked him. He didn't come or anything, but it was a traumatic experience for me. He didn't rape me anally or anything like that. That was it. And I was so terrified and petrified, that I never hung out with him again. I'd run, I'd hide, I'd get away. My dad was curious because I brought it to his attention. I guess this damn thing is recording sideways. But things that I do remember: the terror. I remember his penis. I remember his face as though I'm looking in a mirror and staring at the same reflection. I remember his clothing. He was wearing some orange shorts and a white kind of t-shirt. I don't know if it was a school or whatever. And it was just me and him. Now, could an FBI investigation prove that he ever did it? No. If he was up to become a Supreme Court Justice, would it be my obligation to say, hey, this guy raped me when I was 9 years old? Or should I let it go? Until I told my father that story, my father's argument for Kavanaugh, well, he was 15, he was a kid. I was 9. And I asked my father if it was the guy who raped me up for being a Supreme Court nominee, would it be my responsibility to tell him? Or would you be fine with that? That the guy who raped your son is going to be Supreme Court, and what happened, he was just a kid. Well, my father's changed his mind about Kavanaugh after hearing my story and putting it that way. And but the simple fact is, it goes a lot more than just the allegations. He's not had, not one, but multiple. His drinking. When he followed Trump's direction and basically blew up in the Senate, that struck me as not what I perceive a Supreme Court justice. I perceive a Supreme Court justice always being level-headed, always being under control. And when he freaked out and lost control, right, I thought to myself, there's no way someone who acts like this could ever be a Supreme Court justice. There is just too many other better choices for it. And I don't know if he would ever vote against Roe versus Wade. I don't know if he would ever be, these other things. Possibly, probably. But that doesn't matter to me. The simple fact is, the way he behaves and the allegations against him should automatically disqualify him. There should be no debate. There's plenty of other people to do it. So I would strongly encourage you, share my video with others, contact your representative like I will be this next week. We have a week. Watch the video of the two girls who confronted Flake in the elevator. And one of them revealing for the first time that she'd been raped. What kind of message is putting this man in power sending to women in the country? What kind of message is it sending to your daughter, to your wife, to your loved ones? Now the argument is, oh, it's just the left. No, it's not the left. I've been a Republican all my life. I've never voted Republican. I've actually never voted because I don't agree with our political system. And I'm actually one of the 100 million, I call myself an independent, even though I'm registered Republican because my father's Republican, who has voted not to vote. That's changing. I'm going to become hyperactive now in bringing about the change. I realize now that I was wrong in not voting and not participating. But we never had a Trump in the White House. We've never had basically our whole political system hijacked by a few. The Republicans are a minority. They're a minority party. And their practices and the things that they do ultimately are harming our environment. It's harming our people for the interest of the 1%. And Lindsey Graham, I don't know where I think you're Virginia, but we need to work to get that SOB out of the office. What he said about Dr. Ford, basically saying she's a liar, and it couldn't happen. He's despicable and disgraceful. Lindsey Graham's is evil, and I'm going to leave it at that.